Hello and welcome to my review of the Skyrim Special Edition, and in this video we're going to be talking about the Skyrim Special Edition and why I love Skyrim Special Edition. I swear if I could make myself sound more retarded I probably would. Anyway, we'll start off with the good points, which is what you want to hear. So visually is probably the biggest point here. Visually the game has changed. People say, oh, it's not by much, and you're right in some senses, but in others you're wrong. In other senses it does feel like it's changed more than I expected. For example, the water looks a lot nicer and the lighting is also very nice and very noticeably different. The grass textures feel different as well, quite a lot, and it looks nicer overall. And the finish is pretty lovely. It's like a sort of a performance saving EMB, I suppose, except more stable. Textures are also more polished, not necessarily the best for 2016, but good enough that you aren't going to complain about them. For example, there's more gleam on armor. There are the rocks, probably where it's least noticeable, but there are noticeable differences. Interiors look a lot nicer, what with a new colouring palette, similar to the outside world, but in the sense that it's applied to the indoors. Sort of like how Climate's Tamriel did it, but a lot lighter. Some people say that they can't notice it, but I definitely did. The trees look better as well, which is a major thing, given that there are so many bloody trees in Skyrim. And overall, the finish looks a lot nicer than I expected. From the first trailer that we got. Gameplay wise, the gameplay is exactly the same as original Skyrim, given that it's a remaster, not a remake. Nothing has changed there, it's all the same difficulty, the same everything. Nothing's different about that, and that's for the better because you didn't want too much to change. And it's only really visuals that have been updated, which is, again, that's what we wanted. We didn't really want them to change the engine. However, at the moment there is no script extender, so I suppose that means that, you'll have to hold off on Sky UI or whatever. Modding has been simplified, however that does come with repercussions such as stability. However, it does give fair warning that you use mods at your own risk. And there are some pretty interesting mods up there. I haven't felt the compulsion to download any just yet. I'm kind of enjoying vanilla Skyrim Special Edition. But I'm sure eventually I will come around to modding, and I probably will be using this system here to see exactly what kind of mods I can get hold of, as there are quite a fair few and they look pretty lovely and overall quite decent. And people are of course porting mods over that were available for the original Skyrim, which may have impacted your games significantly and are definitely worth installing. But again, fair warning, you use mods at your own risk and the game may be buggered. The game, despite being the same as Skyrim, will capture your imagination and make you want to play it for a good few dozen hours, because it is definitely worth it, as it's Skyrim and it looks nice and you want to see how it looks above all else. And I wasn't disappointed by it because I have seen worse remasters. In reality, I'm happy that Skyrim is relevant again, at least for about a week. So, I think the graphics, no graphics, it's Skyrim, it's been ported over to current generation consoles. What more do you want, really? They gave us graphical bonuses as well, which is, again, that's lovely. The colouring sort of gives off the fantasy element that you want when playing a fantasy game such as The Elder Scrolls or anything else, so I'm not too fussed about the sometimes over-the-top orange. However, it could be toned down a little bit. And also the change in visuals, in the sense that we have better graphics and better colouring, also makes the game feel more alive, in a sense that the world feels a little bit more saturated. As colour-wise, it feels more like, realistic in the palette sometimes. Sometimes it feels a bit too fantasy, but sometimes, it feels a lot nicer, because in the original Skyrim, I don't know, but it was quite grey, and if you played it, especially on console, you'll understand exactly what I mean. The water also looks a lot nicer and a lot more improved, because the water in original Skyrim wasn't something to behold, and there are a lot of mods to fix it. There still will be, and although it's not the best looking water ever now, it still is pretty nice by comparison to the original Skyrim. It actually kind of flows in a very dynamic and functioning way, and it looks really lovely. Loading times have also improved. Loading screens that would have taken 45 seconds before now take at least, at most 15, and as well as a nice gesture, although not really that important, the loading screens appear to be in a better frame rate, because if you don't remember, the vanilla loading screens for Skyrim were locked at 30, which gives you a sense that the game is a little bit more stable than the original Skyrim. The most noticeable thing for me, however, was the depth of field. So when you're looking at something that's close to your face, everything in the background will blur out, which is a really nice feature because that's how things work in real life. When you look at something in close-up, you can't see the distance, and it really looks nice because it's also very subtle. What I mean by that is how in EMBs they have this blur thing. It's not a new feature that we've never seen before in Skyrim because mods have done it before. However, they've done it a lot more harsh than this has done it, and this does it pretty well. Pretty subtly sort of fades in and out, and it looks like it was meant to be there, which it is. And therefore, I think that the depth of field in this is a lot nicer and really adds to the game and makes the dialogue look a lot nicer, and also the entire experience as a whole looks a lot more polished. For me, the game's sound files seem to be slightly different when looting things. That seems to be a little bit different in noise. Like, the noise it makes sounds a little bit more contained given that it's an interior and etc. So the audio seems a little bit different, although mostly untouched, and the bass sounds are still the same. However, I have run into many glitches as well, and that's something that I'll mention later on. Kill cams are unchanged visibly, and I can't see any differences. They just seem to be nicer in the sense that they look a lot nicer graphically. Now let's get into the negatives, and this is going to be a really quick segment, isn't it? So when I first started trying to play the game, it took 24 hours for the game to actually start working. I had a problem there, not necessarily to do with the game, but when I got in the game and tried to stream it, the frame rate was horrendous. So by this I mean 20 frames per second and lower, sometimes even less than 10 frames per second, because I have OBS trying to stream the game, and I couldn't figure out how to fix it, and I'm still struggling how to do that. It's not very compatible with OBS, and I have to play in Windows borderless to be able to stream it, let alone get any form of decent frame rate. And the optimization isn't necessarily the best overall. However, I do kind of like playing it on my own because that way I do get a solid frame rate, and therefore it's okay. I did encounter quite a few glitches, and I'm still encountering quite a lot of glitches. However, none of them seem to be as bad as the original Skyrim glitches, and thus far the stability is a lot better, and therefore there are hardly any glitches as well. And it does crash from time to time, but not very often. I think I've had the game crash on me once or twice in a crash to desktop situation, and maybe a couple other times just crashing. So it's still quite crashy, but it's not that bad. And then there's the graphical sense of it all, well, the looks more than anything, and that is in the evenings, the sky is frankly too orange, okay? It's almost like it's on weed. I just think maybe, I understand the fantasy glow and that's why I can accept it, but it's, again, it doesn't need to be that orange. It's beautiful and it doesn't need to be this orange, but it does give off the fantasy glow. I do kind of like it for that reason, but there's a lot of yellow. There's a massive imbalance in the colours, and it's mostly yellows that you see. So they need to really take a look at that, really, and maybe patch it, or maybe introduce a version where we can get rid of the yellow without maybe getting rid of the potential for achievements. That, or we can get mods. Also, the problem with mods is that they disable achievements. Now that's understandable, I wish it was any other way, but with the original Skyrim there was a mod on the Steam Workshop that was up for a while which unlocked every single achievement in the game by activating something, so people can code to cheat every single achievement, so therefore you cannot get achievements while using mods. Understandable, but a little bit disappointing. They could just, you know, have the achievements a little bit more encrypted or something, I don't know, but they could also scan for these, random unlocking every achievement at once and then suspending the Steam account or whatever, because that's cheating. And my main argument is, who cares if you cheat to get every achievement? You've got to be bloody sad to do it, but it's a single player game. But overall, the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Special Edition is a great game, just like Skyrim before it. It's basically that. You just think of it as that. If you got it for free for the Legendary Edition on PC, then, you know, there's not much to be disappointed at, because it was worthwhile, because A, it was free, B, it was free, and C, it was free, so therefore there's not much to complain about. However, if you did buy it and you're complaining about it. What the point was to port the game over to current generation so more people could play it and enjoy it. It wasn't necessarily to remaster it too much, and the fact that they remastered it at all instead of just merely porting it over is a massive bonus, I think, and we shouldn't be too picky about that. However, at the same time, I can understand why you'd be disappointed, because although it is a remaster, and it's quite a nice remaster, and it's really nice and polished and stuff, and it's a polished version of the original game, it isn't necessarily the most overhauled remaster I have ever seen. I will admit that there are better remasters out there. But overall, it keeps Skyrim, it keeps the atmosphere, it keeps the feeling, it keeps the vibe, it keeps the fun. Overall, it's still the same game underneath, and I can't wait to see what mods do to this game, because if you think about it, the original Skyrim, yeah, that looked about this good a few years back, and that was after a few years of modding. So now they have a chance. They could probably make some really nice looking EMBs for this game and whatever. Not that you want them or whatever, but it could be a thing. But anyway, guys, we're approaching the end of this video. My review, I'm not going to give it an out of 10 review, but I think it's definitely worth getting at some point if you want it. I mean, if you like Skyrim, then it's worth getting. But thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, share, comment, etc. Tell me what you think about this video, and I'll see you all in the next one with another video. So yeah. And I forgot to mention, wolves still look nothing like wolves. What?